The US dollar is the reserve currency of the world, but there's nothing really stopping a country from using an alternative currency to do business, except sometimes when a country starts to use the euro or suggests creating a new currency to unify a group of countries in trade, their leaders are wiped off the face of the earth and the country seems to go back to business as usual. Sound familiar? You came here for the truth, so let me unveil that for you. Today we're going to look at two major issues. One is Venezuela dumping the US dollar, and the second is to get into what's going on with China. I want to talk about the markets interconnected in with that. So let's begin in a jam-packed episode. Dow falls 200 points at the open as volatile trading continues. I opened up the news in the morning, checking it out as the stock market opens. I see this. Then I go back to it just a little while after, and I see stocks turn positive as volatile trading continued through the start of the earnings season. So this has been fluctuating, and at the time of this recording, it's just slightly positive. The Nasdaq is up 12 points. Now, obviously the Nasdaq stocks being the talk of the town. There's a lot of earnings that are coming out at this time. You're going to see a lot of positive news. IBM, I believe, posted negative news, but the market is shrugging that off because the Netflix stock is doing well, and therefore everything is just fine. So we're going to see all the other tech shares come out and post their earnings. They'll probably be positive, and that will at least have a temporary effect into the positive territory for stocks. But there's a lot of other issues that should be troubling and should be worrying individuals at this time, but of course that is never ever taken into account. Now that's the US stocks, but I want to show you China stocks. China's forced stock sales make a bad year worse for Shenzhen, and this is basically the Nasdaq equivalent in China. So I'm going to cover just a couple quick points from it. The Shenzhen Composite lost 2% on Tuesday, on track for a fresh 4-year low. So we're looking at the typical stocks in here like Tencent, like Alibaba, and so on. Forced stock sales are making matters worse for China's tech hub, where investors are already facing their steepest losses in a decade. And the point that they make down here is very important. There's a liquidity crisis in the stock market, and pledged shares are again starting to sound the alarm. Stocks in Shenzhen typically bear the brunt of loss of confidence in the stock market because of their higher valuations. The same applies to the tech stocks in the United States. Everybody's focusing on them. Everybody is hoping that they will continue to grow forever. And if we see the example of what's happening in China, these ones are the ones that take the biggest losses. They were the biggest to rise on the way up, and they'll be the biggest to drop on the way down. And I'll show you that right now. You're looking at the stock market, the Shenzhen, over the last few years, going back to 2007. And you'll see that there have been times in the past, like this one at the top, 2007, where the stock market increased significantly throughout that period of that year. Then you look at other times, 2008, and it doesn't look so good. Okay, you will see the declines there. But we see where they are today, and that's this point right here in the negative territory, going down 35%. So imagine the tech stocks, the ones that are supposed to be able to withstand any troubles, any turmoil, they are down 35% this year so far, and it continues to slide. We are talking about Alibaba. We're talking about Tencent. We're talking about companies that are some of the biggest in the world, not just in China, some of the biggest in the world, and they're getting demolished here in 2018. Looking at this, Shenzhen's new 52-week lows, we are now at a record going back to the financial crisis. We haven't had this level since the financial crisis, and it won't surprise me to see it actually exceed that. So let's keep our eyes on what's happening with this stock market and the lows experience, because it just keeps getting worse and worse. It's not the Shanghai Composite. I usually show you that, but it's also the Shenzhen, because that's the tech shares, tech heavy anyway. So we're looking at this, And I've been covering this all throughout 2018, showing you where it's going, as well as emerging markets and as well as all other markets, in fact, just to try to track the progress and to see where it has been. I keep hearing the same thing over and over again. You're talking about a stock market crash, but it's never going to come. You're talking about a stock market crash. It's never going to come. What market are you looking at? What market? I know you're looking at the NASDAQ. I hear you. But not even the NASDAQ has done as well as just a few FANG stocks. The breadth is terrible right now. And that is an embarrassment considering the amount of stimulus that is still in this system. I have made myself very clear. If they pull the stimulus away, stocks will crash. If they use QT, quantitative tightening, stocks in the US will crash. If they continue to stimulate it, it's going to continue to rise. There's no doubt. That's what it's riding on. It's riding on fake money, more than we've ever seen before. Now switching gears over to Venezuela. Venezuela is abandoning the US dollar with all future transactions on the Venezuelan exchange market to be made in euro. All right. Because of the sanctions, they're suggesting that this blocks the possibility of to do trade using the US dollar on the Venezuelan exchange market. So it's not as if they want to necessarily do this, but they are. Regardless, they're dumping the dollar because there's no other way. All right, so, it gets into more details, but essentially this here, Venezuela's floating exchange rate system, DICOM, will be operating in euro, yuan, or any other convertible currency and will allow the foreign exchange market to use any other convertible currency. So they're suggesting they're going around the system simply because they don't have any other choice. I think this is very important, not just because it's one more country suggesting that they're going to do away with the US dollar, but in its importance. We see historically that there have been multiple events in the past that have ended with leaders being overthrown. We saw this in, should I say it? Or is it too much to handle? We saw this in Iraq. They suggested we're going to start using the euro 1 month later. 1 month later, if I'm not mistaken, he was gone. Then we had Libya. Look at what happened. Oh, let's use a gold-backed dinar. Let's unify our countries together in this trade and do business away from the US dollar in a stronger currency, and it will be able to pull us together so that we can grow together, and yet everybody remains sovereign. Oh no, we're not going to do that because you'll be gone. And it was no time at all before he was removed, to say the least. So that's history for you. You might consider the fact that maybe Venezuela, it's insignificant to what you think. Maybe their economy is small, but they've got a lot of resources that somebody really, really wants. So maybe they'll be the next Iraq. Maybe they'll be the next Libya. We'll see. I'll end the video there. If you found it informative, please give me a thumbs up. When you give me a thumbs up, it helps to support this channel, so I do appreciate that very much. And if you want the financial education you were not taught in school, well then, these 2 books have it all. You get to learn everything from the foundation, all the principles you need to know without any jargon, without all that garbage that the school system and the financial textbooks like to put around it. You don't need to know anything about finance to read these 2 books, but if you do, obviously it's beneficial. And if you're more interested in the audiobook version, you can get that at themoneygps.com. If you stayed here till the end, I want to read you this quote. Ralph Waldo Emerson. God will not have his work made manifest by cowards. I heard this quote, and I'm sure I had heard it previously as well. but it just made me think. Every day, when you do work, whatever that is, are you committing everything you have to it? Are you being lazy? Are you doing a job that's half effort? Are you not willing to put everything that you have into what it is that you love or that you're doing? Do you have a passion for what you do? It's okay to be passionate about something so simple in your life. Could be anything at all, but you should be passionate about it, whatever that is to you. Give it all you got. So that's it. Take care.